Since I screwed up on the last one, when I ask all these questions, by the way, to people, you might have been here sometime back. Mike Salas did a kick-ass talk. If you hadn't seen it, get on YouTube and find it because, dude, it's awesome. Anyway, he was one of the guys, he was the first person who didn't actually email me back with answers to his getting to know you questions, so I got to make them up. So I sent out a, no, seriously, guys, bless you. You have to hand me answers or I'm going to make them up. So Jermaine emailed me his at 4:04, and I didn't have time to write it down, so I'm not going to fuck it up. I'm going to read it off my phone. If you owned a luxury yacht, what would its name be? Nautilus, because the smooth jazz song of the same name by Bob James is one of the most sampled songs in hip-hop history. I didn't know. And this one's even better. What's the worst line you use to dump someone? The gag order prevents me from talking about it, but my ex is in the audience. Is she over here? Yeah, so ask Jermaine's ex. Find her. There's a fun game. So, big round of applause. Here comes Jermaine, not feeling awkward.
How many of my exes raised their hand?
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I know you're out there. So at some point in my life, I gained this reputation as a people connector. My friends have started introducing me as a man about town, and they say I have an ability to connect with people of influence and gain credibility. Now, people hear that, and they think that means I walk around like some used car salesman with this fake plastic smile and a saccharine disposition. But really connecting with people of influence is all about building authentic relationships. The truth is, I'm actually an introvert. And I'm an outgoing introvert, so people don't often recognize that about me, but you'll notice from the number of books I reference in this presentation that I spend a lot of time in my own head and off reading, doing research somewhere. Introversion actually works to my advantage because it makes me avoid superficial engagement with people and concentrate on being authentic. In The Education of Millionaires, Michael Ellsberg interviewed 50 millionaires who never finished a college degree, and what he found was that their success could commonly be attributed to being able to connect with spheres of influence. And this matters to you and me because we've all been affected by decisions made by people in power who may or may not be the best qualified to make those decisions. At the very least, they're making decisions without the perspective that you and I could bring to the table. So quite by accident, I recognized a pattern that's allowed me to do everything from joining the boards of various civic organizations to becoming a club kid in LA that knew every hip hop DJ worth his salt back in LA. So the first thing that I do is figure out what the community is that I want to connect with, figure out where they congregate and show up. That's 80% of the job right there, is figuring out who the community is and where they're at. That can be physical places and events or online message boards, depending on what you do. Now, what I'm not talking about is targeting individual people, because that's just creepy no matter what you call it. And I'm not talking about going to networking events and accosting people that you want to sell something to or get a favor from. I'm talking about joining a community and figuring out what makes it tick. Figuring out the norms of that community. You can't just walk in and start calling the shots right off the bat. A lot of people read How to Win Friends and Influence People and think this means you go around and you smile and you nod and you pretend to be interested in everybody's boring hobby. But it's really important to be your authentic self. It signals that you understand people when you conform to certain norms, but even if you disagree, you can still be yourself. After a while, you'll start to recognize who the leaders of a community are, the people who make things happen. They'll start to recognize you. At that point, you can approach them without them feeling like they got blindsided by some random stranger. That's why I don't carry business cards, because I would rather make an authentic connection with someone and have them ask how to reach out to me rather than go all spray and pray with my contact information to everybody that I meet. The way I make sure that they want to reach out to me is figuring out what I can offer them of value. And everybody's got something of value they can offer, even if it's just your perspective on things. A lot of times people just need something really simple that might come naturally to you, and you just have to engage with them and figure out where they're in need. An example, when I first moved to West LA, I had no connections to the neighborhood. I didn't really know anybody. So I started going to the neighborhood council meetings to figure out what was going on in the area and meet my neighbors. At the time, there was a lot of development happening, and the neighbors would show up at these meetings to complain about certain developments and projects, but only after the council had spent the last 6 months already figuring out what their action plan was going to be. So because I showed up often enough, eventually I knew who the leaders were and whose ear I needed to get when I wanted something done. I could then just walk into our city councilman's district office and unannounced and without an appointment, get one of his staff members to sit down and hear what I had to say. So I started seeing all these things that I could help with around our neighborhood. We had a summer concert series that was really dismally attended. Like, nobody came and the bands they booked sucked, but I happen to know every hip hop DJ in LA, so there we go. So eventually, when we were looking at redesigning our civic center, I was not on the council, but I got invited to the table, literally, to go over the plans that the developers were proposing before they were presented publicly. Now, I'd known from other projects I'd done in the area that the LA Conservancy and the Getty Research Institute had historical interest in the area, but for some reason, none of them had taken that into consideration before they made up these plans. I suggested, hey, maybe we should bring them to the table before we start facing that angry mob. So at the end of the day, it's not about being some used car salesman and trying to have this facade. It's about showing up authentically, figuring out where community is, and figuring out what you have of value to offer to people.